So you're looking at a company's reports, and you see terms like ESG and sustainability. You think to yourself, wait a minute, aren't those pretty much the same thing? Well, you're definitely not alone. It's a huge point of confusion for pretty much everyone. Investors, professionals, you name it. Today, we're going to crack that code. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at the two sides of the reporting coin. First, we'll see things from an investor's point of view. Then, we'll flip it and look at the company's own impact story. After that, we'll bridge the gap with a really key idea called dual materiality. And finally, we'll see how this all comes together, from a single project all the way up to a big, polished report. Okay, let's dive right in. The whole reason this gets confusing is that we're dealing with two types of reports. They might look similar on the surface, but underneath, they're telling two fundamentally different stories about a company. So, ESG disclosure or sustainability report. I mean, they both go beyond just profits, right? But here's the thing. Their purpose, who they're for, and the story they're actually telling couldn't be more different. Let's break down what's really going on here. First up, let's put on our investor hat. If you're an investor, what's your number one concern? It's financial performance and, of course, risk. This is the world of ESG disclosures. An ESG disclosure is laser-focused on financial and investment data. It's designed to answer one critical question. How could a company's actions on environmental, social, and governance issues affect its bottom line, and ultimately, my investment? So what's actually in one of these things? It's often less about saving the whales and more about what's happening in the boardroom. We're talking details about who's on the board, how much executives are paid, and if there are solid whistleblower policies. The single thread tying all this together, every piece of information is there to help an investor size up financial risk. And this brings us to a really useful way to think about it, the outside-in perspective. ESG disclosures are all about how the outside world, things like climate change, regulations, or social trends, might financially impact the company. It's a view driven almost completely by what investors and regulators are demanding to see. Okay, now let's flip that coin over completely. When we talk about sustainability reports, the whole perspective shifts. We're not asking what the world does to the company anymore. We're asking, what does the company do to the world? A sustainability report is a much, much broader story. It's the organization telling you about its policies, its practices, and its performance, and really detailing its actual footprint on the planet and on society. Inside these reports, you're going to find metrics on things like carbon emissions, water usage, and community engagement. You'll also see goals for the future. A lot of this reporting is voluntary, and companies often align it with big global frameworks like the GRI to be transparent with all of their stakeholders, not just the investors. And this, as you can probably guess, is the inside-out perspective. This report comes from the organization's own sense of purpose and its desire for transparency. It's all about answering the question, how do our day-to-day operations really affect the environment and the society we operate in? So we've got outside in for ESG disclosures and inside out for sustainability reports. Two totally different views, so how do they connect? Well, the bridge is this incredibly powerful concept called dual materiality. And honestly, understanding this is the real aha moment. It all kicks off with this legal idea called materiality, which actually comes from U.S. securities law. Justice Thurgood Marshall put it perfectly. Something is material if there's a good chance a reasonable investor would think it's important for a decision. It's really as simple as that. This brings us to the core of it all. Dual materiality says that both of these perspectives are absolutely essential. On one side, you've got financial materiality. That's your ESG, your outside-in view of how the world impacts the company's wallet. And on the other side, you've got impact materiality. That's your sustainability report, the inside-out view of how the company impacts the world. And what we're seeing now is that investors want both to get the full story. And don't think for a second this is just some academic theory. This idea is so important that back in 2019, the European Union actually started requiring large companies to report using this very principle of dual materiality. They officially recognized that a company's impact on the world is in itself financially material information. Okay, so we get the theory, right? But how does this actually work? How does a company go about gathering all the information it needs for both kinds of reports? Well, it all starts at the project level. It's a pretty straightforward two-step process. First, you have to identify a project's potential impacts, both the good and the bad. You might use a framework like a P35 impact analysis for this. Then, and this is key, you document those findings in something like a sustainability management plan. That creates a clear, auditable trail of how you're managing everything. And that becomes the raw data for all your reporting. And the real beauty of this granular project-level approach is just how versatile it is. The data you collect becomes the direct input for all the major reporting frameworks that investors and other stakeholders are looking for, from the GRI for impact reporting and SASB for financial stuff, all the way to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It's the foundational building block you need for any credible, comprehensive report. So, to wrap it all up, if you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this right here. An ESG disclosure asks a simple question: how does the world impact the company's wallet? And the sustainability report asks, how does the company impact the world? Two simple questions that really define the two sides of this coin. And that really brings us to the final thought. The trend is crystal clear. Investors, stakeholders, customers, they're not satisfied with just one side of the story anymore. They want the complete picture. So the real question for every organization now is, how are you going to master and communicate both sides of that coin? Because it's definitely not an either-or situation anymore. The future of corporate reporting is dual.